So Marion, quite often in classes, my participants do ask, what's the best age to type people? Because again, they're excited, they get the type and they're wondering, I should do this for my family. They got 3 kids, 4 kids, I'm going to do it for all my kids. And then they start to say, one of my kids is 12 years old, one is 13 years old. So they frequently ask, what's the best age to type someone?
Here in Asia or here in Singapore, we actually found that it's a little bit better to type them when a little bit older, maybe 18 and above, or maybe even 20 and above. Again, I think this is really about maturity. You do really about the young students who are extremely mature and they're able to type themselves quite quickly and they know themselves very well. So again, this is really about the journey of self-development. We've said this over and over again, that there's really no need to figure out your type so quickly. If you're struggling between a couple of types, it's okay, and just take the time to get to know yourself better, right? Get some feedback from people, observations about how you react towards certain things, and it's that whole process of development.
That's right. The other one is don't be in a hurry to know your number, right? Because once you're in a hurry to know your number, then it's a certain stage you may not really be typed your core number, because you could be in a different space, you're having different experiences. So even sometimes people who are 23 and 24 may not get their type because they're not in a good space or in a good place.
Or even older than that, right? Older than their 30s or 40s.
We have found that people who've done very minimal work on themselves, very little inner work, very little developmental work, they sometimes show up different numbers when they do the profile over 3 times or 4 times.
Exactly.
So a lot of it is at what stage you are and what kind of work you've done on yourself. Right?
And I think it's also important for coaches and trainers not to be so quick to type a person. I think that's another area where sometimes the coaches or trainers tend to misuse the Enneagram, where they get so excited about it and they're very quick to say you're this type, and these are the expected behaviors that you should be. And we definitely see that show up in our classes quite often, especially in our certification, where people think that because they're this type, they should only behave a certain way, right? So that tends to be a little bit of a misuse of the Enneagram, right?
So we just have to be careful about that. I think there are certain ages which, again, Jerome Wagner has recommended, but by the same token, don't be stuck to the fact that, maybe at 18 is a bit too young. Although we do recommend, I think 18 is a good starting point.
It's pretty okay.
It does not mean at 24 you'll definitely be typed a certain number, right? So hopefully that helps.
But I must say that for myself, being a mother of young children, when I first learned the Enneagram, I wasn't that same boat where I was really excited about trying to figure out what type my sons were. Right? I realized that if I were to put them in this box and type them, then I would kind of put these expectations on them to definitely be unfair and not helping them in their growth. So for me, it was more about teaching them the Enneagram, not so much to type themselves, but just to understand the diversity in people, that every child that they meet and every person that they meet is going to be a little bit different. So, you have to adjust your behaviors or your expectations or understand a little bit about where they're coming from. So once again, the 9 points of view, the 9 ways of being, the 9 ways of seeing the world, right? So for them, I think growing up, understanding the Enneagram was really helpful because in times of challenges with other people, at least they have a rough idea of where people were coming from. So if it's really about just understanding people, I would say yes, introduce the Enneagram to younger children, but don't try to type them.
That's right. Just a little segue. Sometimes my participants do ask me questions like, so how can I make my child a certain type? Yes, initially I laugh inside my head. But I think, the premise of the Enneagram is you're born into your type. And we're not going to get into too deep arguments again about this. But let them be who they are. Let their real behaviors emerge, and accept them for who they are. Don't try to make them someone else. So I think you're going to be utterly disappointed. You may point them in certain directions, but that doesn't mean they're going to be there, or you're going to be there forever with them or next to them. Right? They're going to obviously come up with, they're going to have different friends. We're going to be exposed to different experiences. So let those emerge and just let it flow.
And I think you want to remind them that, or what we have to remind ourselves is there's no one type that's better than the other.
That's right.
Every 9 type is important. It takes all 9 types to make the world the way it is, right? So we need to have more compassion for each of the different types, more understanding with each of the different types, and then I believe we can move forward towards a much better place, a much happier place.
Hence this whole learning about getting out of the box. Because with the Enneagram, I think first of all we have to understand the box we are in, and only when we understand the box we are in can we actually get out of the box. And And simply what does that mean? Don't be stuck to your box, because again, there are 8 other areas for you to pinch from and to improve and be a little bit more like the behaviors you think are useful for yourself and for your life.